In the past 2 episodes, we discussed the common mistakes in product development. We also uncovered insights and the story behind an internationally renowned product, and who usually stands behind products. Today, we want to put more emphasis on the role of a product manager in the product development process. To explore this topic further, we have invited our guest today, Michał Fiech, who has broad experience working with products. As some of you may know, he is an ex-employee of LiveChat. Michał, thank you for accepting our invitation for the interview. You're without doubt an experienced product manager and growth hacker, but could you tell us a bit more about your career? Where did you gain your experience and on what kind of products?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So I would say that everything started like 5 or 6 years ago, as my primary background was in online marketing, I would say rather in growth marketing. So in just doing various actions that was just aimed to gain more traffic, more leads, and so on. And at some point, I started to move. I got my own growth team at LiveChat back then, and I started to move more towards, like, let's see, working with user design, with user experience designers, with developers, and so on. So it became like a small product team, I would say. And I would say that the main transition point was when we said to the LiveChat C-level guys that, hey, we don't want to do any more marketing tools. We would like to just go slightly farther and just create our own product. And this is when we started to work on knowledgebase.com.ai, I guess. And we were working on this for half a year. We managed to build the entire product from the very scratch, to ship it to the market, to the LiveChat customers. We did it in 5 months in a team of 3 people. And after this, we started to earn money. We started to get paid subscriptions. We had quite good retention and so on. So the team decided that they want to look for someone else for the product and move us to the main LiveChat product. And I would say that this period was the one that I decided, okay, I want to go into product management. And since then, at LiveChat, as a manager of the growth team, then in other companies, I just started to work with products more from the growth perspective. So because my background was in growth marketing, I was not that into user experience, user flows, and I would say, or being a product owner, where you have a lot of discussions about the process, about scrums, being agile, certification, and so on. So I just took what was important in growth marketing, so being driven by metrics, working mainly on the impact and business results, and just moved it more into product. So how we can use the product competencies and, let's say, work on slightly on the product depth, to deliver the results. So more or less, this is how the story went.
That's super interesting. And so, judging from what you just said, you had experience both working from making a product from scratch, but also then joining kind of when it was more developed, let's say, the process.
Exactly.
Which one would you say was more interesting for you?
For me, it is joining a product that's already established and has some initial user base, mainly because you have more leverages just to use and to somehow reuse the traffic, to do optimizations, experiments, and so on. So to do so, you need to have the volume and everything around that. I would say that creating the product from the scratch is also a very rewarding experience, because, you have the feeling to really, you have the possibility to really find out if you know how to do stuff, whether it will work out and so on. And you know that, okay, it's because you and the team. However, then after you have this initial, let's say, release, there's a long way to get the traction, to get the volumes and so on. So for me, for sure, the second part where the product is already established.
So one can say that it's harder to come up with an idea, but then actually to develop the idea and make it work, I think that's even more difficult at times.
There is a lot of ideas, there is a lot of products based on good ideas, but without doing it properly, I guess that there will be nothing that come out from the idea. So it's all about the, I would say, how you do it.
Cool. And now, as an experienced product manager, could you describe in your own words how would you define the role and how would you place a product manager in a tech company setting? Maybe could you tell us more about the duties that such a person has and how would you place him in the overall company structure?
Okay, so I would say that maybe a year or 2 years ago, I would have slightly different opinion that the product team should be in the product department, that it should have all of the competencies developers in it, and I still think that this is I would say more effective and appropriate. But now I would shift it more toward the fact that I mean, you can have split the resources and it will still work out. But getting back to the beginning, to your initial question. So I would say that the product manager, okay, and one disclaimer before I start. If someone is really tied to the definitions in agile frameworks and so on, who's product owner, who's product manager, then sorry, I won't follow this. The main difference I am seeing between product manager and product owner, and thus who product manager is that this is a person who not only take care of delivering features, optimizations or anything else, but it's the person who is in charge of the business outcomes of the product. So the product manager should be responsible for not only the product roadmap and development, but also for the results that the product results in. And what else?
His duties, but I think that ties nicely, just to elaborate, to your role as a marketer. And now you said like the duties kind of overlap with growth hacker perhaps. So would you say that there is some similarity in the growth hacker role and then the skills of a product manager?
Yep, for sure. I would say that this is the okay, so the main similarities will be around just working on the results and impact. So in growth hacking, you have just, let's say, the pirate metrics and everything just optimized in gaining more users, revenue, and all of that, let's say, the business metrics. But unfortunately, the growth hacking is in most cases seen as a marketing part. So even if you talk about all of the levels of the funnel, still it is marketing. So if you would just take this initial idea of the pirate metrics and working on the business growth on all of the levels, and you would just move it to the product, then I would say that this is the case. So the product manager isn't someone who just should work on the features that comes from someone else in the company, from some stakeholders, but it's a person who should look on his or her own on what, let's say, what opportunities they could seize. So whether it's working on retention, on acquisition, on monetization, or anything else. So the product manager should take, let's say, the growth mindset from the growth marketers and just apply all of the product features or product competencies to just achieve that.
So like a wider business perspective,
exactly.
Not just focusing narrow vision on the product itself.
Yep, especially that growth marketers, I mean, they are, as I said, in most cases, they are working in the marketing teams. So, and what's even said, sometimes the product departments or teams think that marketing is very, I would say, maybe not inexperienced, but not that important. So they are not letting anyone from growth marketing team into the product process. And that's not good, because sometimes I met a lot of people, and I've seen it a lot of times, that growth marketers had better ideas how to drive results via product than the product people themselves, but they just couldn't do it.
So having gained that mindset, would you tell us a bit more, because you're now at Bolt, and e-commerce provider in a nutshell. And could you tell us a bit more how you lead your product team and the people, what's the division of roles that you have there? Do you have any specific rhythms of how you run the team? And you yourself as a product leader, how do you translate that mindset to the overall team structure?
Okay. That was a lot of questions in the row.
We can start slowly. We can just start with your overall team description.
So I will explain one thing first. So Bolt is I would say e-commerce. It's a B2C market. However, there is a part of subscription. So rather, we are saying that we are somewhere between the transactions, the e-commerce part, and the subscription model. So we are allowing users to create cover letters, resumes, and other type of documents within our product, within our builders. And we are suggesting them various predefined text, the content that they could use, or suggestions, or expert tips, and so on and so on. So when the user wants to use the product, then they need to purchase, let's say, the initial trial period, and then there are recurring subscriptions that are just happening each month. So I would say that it's something between B2C e-commerce and subscription model. And at Bolt, the product teams are structured more in a way that we have one product department, product and experience department, where we have the product managers and UX, UI designers. Okay. And we are just grouped into one bigger department. And the development itself is, let's say, in the other teams. So you have the front-end team, the back-end team, QAs, and so on. And every team has its leader and its members. So it's not like, let's say, Spotify's or even LiveChat's product teams where you have all of the competences under one product manager. It's like, I would say, slightly more put in silos. And to my surprise, it can work very well and very efficient. So the process is handled in a way where you can leverage, I would say, the full flexibility of the competences of the resources you have. Because if you have product teams with everyone in it, then they just need to have a name. So if, let's say, particular feature, product area, or product is not, don't have that many items in the backlog, then this team might not do enough work. They can just, let's say, be bored or something. Right. In the other, on the other side of the spectrum, if you have product managers that are not tied to any team and developers that are not tied to any team, you can quickly shift the area of the focus. So if you don't want to work on the one product, because Bolt is a multi-brand company, so we have like five products almost right now in our Polish team, then we can just shift the focus between different brands and different actions to work only on the things that can bring us the biggest outcome. Right. Okay, so that was the first part. And
right, so having this one big structure, as you previously said, was present in LiveChat, might be restricting the free flow of ideas, let's say, between different managers, and maybe the communication is more creative in that setting, that you have smaller fractions and people feel more free to...
I would say that the full creativity and, let's say, using ideas from all of the team members. The structure, when you have product teams with all of the competences, they are better for this. Right. If you have quite good process and you handled everything and it's working efficiently, then I would say that the silos way is more flexible, and it's easier to manage from the, I would say, roadmap perspective. Okay. Yep.
I see. Great. And you mentioned the 4 products that you have on the Polish team. Could you talk maybe in detail, maybe more about one of them, or maybe some features that you are currently working on?
Yep, sure. So the brands are, for example, interviewme.pl, resumelab.com, seti.es, or lifecareer.pl. So we have brands for different markets, from the Polish market, US, and Spanish one. Okay. And there are some differences between the products depending on what engine we are using over there, but we can focus on the biggest Polish one, so interviewme.pl. So basically, I would say that this is our main playground, as we have in Poland we have the biggest volumes over there, and also the biggest volumes in the traffic, in terms of the traffic conversion and so on. So it's the easiest for us to test hypotheses, to do experiments, and just to validate the learnings quickly. And in general, I would say that this is one of the challenges I would see right now, and not only for us, but in general for a lot of products who are in a market similar to ours, that you have a natural frequency that is, let's say, not continuous, and it's smaller than, let's say, once a month. Because in general, if any one of us is looking for a job, it's like a process that, let's say, takes up to 3 or 4 months, and then you are done. So then you are not, you don't have any need to do anything else. So this is the natural frequency. So a user might use us, let's say, a couple of times a week or a month for the 3 months, and then then this is the end.
Right.
So currently in InterviewMe, we were working on optimizing the funnel. So focusing on, let's say, on the first weeks or in the first session, just to make sure that someone will create their resume, they will follow through the funnel, and they will convert.
Right.
But because, as I said previously, we are in a subscription model, we are also taking care of what happens afterward. So whether they will come back the next month, the month after that, up to a couple of months. However, still the natural frequency or the natural frequency of the use case ends somewhere, let's say, after the 4th month for the majority of users. So the main challenge here is to how create a new feature, a new app, or anything that will be just adjusted to the main product. So we will give a new use case to the user that could stay with us even longer and could use us even after they find a job. So this is one area that we are focusing right now. So to generate ideas, to do user research, focus groups and with the users, just to come up with the, let's say, most beneficial for us use case that we could cover. And at the same time, we are working on optimizing the flow itself, what we have right now, just to make sure that the numbers are still increasing and we can just do even more.
Right. Would you say the pandemic changed the natural frequency of the users of your platform?
I wouldn't say that it changed that much. Just as a lot of businesses, we have seen some spikes during the first lockdown, and I guess that only during the first lockdown. However, the pandemic didn't affect it that much.
Okay, interesting. And I have a question in terms of managing your team. Do you have any goals or specific KPIs that you set and then, let's say, judge your team performance based on that?
Yep. So in general, everyone in the company, at least within the team I'm working with, they are following, let's say, the values we have. And I'm quite surprised that it's the first time that really those values can be seen somewhere. Okay. But one of them is impact and growth. So going that direction, every product manager and in general every employee of the company is preparing for himself based on the strategy. Every employee is preparing a quarterly roadmap that they would like to achieve. Also, they have we have our OKRTs, so objectives, key results, and tasks, and everything is tied. So everything starting from the OKRTs, including the roadmap and all other documents from other people, are tied up together to just deliver the outcome of the entire company. So we are using OKRs. And I would say what's quite good, in my opinion, is the fact that every PM is creating his own file and the roadmap itself. So it's not that the idea is coming from the top to the bottom, but it's us. Sometimes it is. So sometimes we have like a company-wide strategies that we just want to follow, and something needs to be done. But in most of the cases, it is rather up to the product manager himself or herself what they want to focus on. So we are just working together to identify areas which we could improve in the fastest and more impactful way. And then we are doing anything it takes from the research perspective, from the analysis perspective, or just anything we can to propose the best solution that will just also give us the best results.
Interesting. And the roadmap, you said each employee has it. So even at the lowest level, each person that joins you has their own responsibilities that he kind of individually comes up with. Obviously, it's guided by the overall company objective.
Exactly.
I think each person feels the responsibility that they have to deliver, but it kind of comes from themselves. So it's maybe more motivational.
Yep, it is. And also, I would say this is a very transparent and good way to evaluate employees and the managers, vice versa. Because if you devote that you want to do something, then you are obligated to do this, and you need to grow, you need to learn, and you need to deliver the result. And if you want, it happens. So it's not like that if you want, you are fired or something. More it's that when you say that I will deliver this and this, and then you will or won't, you need to find out, hey, why I didn't deliver this, or hey, why I did it that quick or that fast. So I would say that it triggers the growth part where you need to take an active participation in the, let's say, growth process, when you need to just work better and smarter.
Great. And could you tell us a bit more how the process of product implementation and development looks like at Bolt?
Yep. I guess I won't say anything that will be confidential, as I mean everything related to this can be found in other blog posts. So in general, it all depends on the task you are doing. But let's say the most common flow, the development process, is related to the experimentation process and how we optimize things. So at the very beginning, we have, let's say, a huge backlog of ideas that we could test. And this is coming from the customer feedback. This is coming from our previous UX researchers, focus groups, our own, let's say, know-how or observations, what we could improve, competition, benchmarks, in general.
Everything that's based.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that seems reasonable and could benefit us anyhow, I mean, can be put over there. Then everything is going through a prioritization framework. So we are just trying to find as many objective insights or data points that we could use so we can compare all of the items like apples to apples. So based on this, we have some scores. We are deciding what we want to do. Those things are going to the OKRTs and to the roadmap for a given quarter. And when we have this, then let's say the entire process starts. So we are just we are mapping each project from each PM on a timeline, just to make sure that we won't, let's say, have any bottlenecks on some competencies or in other teams. And when this is done, the process is going. And what's in the process? First, we are gathering all of the qualitative and quantitative information we have. We are the product manager works with UX designer at this point. I would say that one of the things I didn't see that often in Polish companies, and this is, let's say, an off topic, but quite important, is that the UX and UI are not the same person. So there is a strict line between the UX designer and UI designer. So product manager, based on the insights we have on what we want to achieve, is working with the UX designer to either gather some new resources, some new information through user research or new studies, or to gather just anything we know about the given topic, the given feature, the given segment of the user, anything that is just related to the topic. And when we have both quantitative and qualitative data, we are just merging this with the UX. So we have some first proposals of how it could work. And when we have this, we are taking it to something we call a kickoff meeting, where there is the entire product team, the developers, product analytics, and other people. So we can identify as many potential issues as possible in the very first phase. So, for example, the developer will say, "Okay, we can't do this because this is how the app's architecture works," and so on and so on. When this is established and agreed on, this is going through. I mean, the UX designer is polishing the mockups and the prototypes. If there is a need, it can go to another user research with the user testing with the prototypes. If everything's good, it's going to the UI person, and when it's done, it's going to the development. So the PM is working, let's say, hands-on with the UX at the very beginning, and when the UX is finished, he's just facilitating and, let's say, doing the entire product owner stuff from there on. So you need to go to development refinements, plannings, take part in sprints, and in general do the entire, I would say, typical Scrum stuff during the sprint. And when it's done, we are just releasing it as an experiment, and we are checking it every week, all of the experiments, just to see what's happening over there. And one important thing that is present both here and in the previous company I was doing it for, is that the experimentation process is not, I mean, that doesn't look like in a lot of companies that, okay, we used some tools, we just tested this, and there is, let's see, we can see that the uplifts are are over there, and after a week, okay, we can see that it is working better, so let's just release it. I mean, everything that we do is very, I would say, stiff and ties to the statistics. So we have a clear hypothesis at the beginning. We have the changelog of each change in the variant, so you can identify which change led to what effect. We are doing the entire statistics before the experiment run to see how many weeks we need to wait based on our traffic conversions. Then we are analyzing all of the p-values and other stuff just to make sure that the result we are seeing, I mean, it's really the uplift and not some, let's say, statistical issue. Yeah, exactly. And when it's done, it's going to production. We are deciding if we want to roll it out to other brands, because if something works here, there is a good idea. I mean, we have a good indication that this could work also in the other brand. So this is, again, another idea that just comes to the backlog and so on and so on.
Okay. So that sounds like a really extensive, rigorous process.
That can take, I would say, from a week. So we are able, sometimes we are able to just deliver everything in a week or two, up to a couple of months, depending on the scale of the project.
That was my next question. Obviously, I wanted to say it depends on the product, but just the timeline, I was curious how long does it. So it's interesting to see that it can take, it can be either a week or months.
Yep. Depending how many things we need to change, how much, what is the development cost, and in general, what is the idea. However, I would say that this is a rigorous process that not takes way more time. So it's not that you need to have a check mark checked from your boss or someone. It's rather just that you don't forget to do anything that will just give you a qualitative insights about the fact.
Interesting.
So it's, I would say that it's mainly just decreasing the, it's more error prone. So we are just cutting off anything that will make it not as effective as it could be.
I see. So we've covered quite a bit of the company processes and the structure, and now coming back to your personal experience.
Okay.
What would you say was the biggest product challenge you face in your experience?
Okay.
Can be recent, can be bold, or maybe a live chat.
I would refer to two situations. One was in the previous company, which was a German fintech startup. And for me, it was, okay, so I took a step back. Previously at ex-Livechat, I had on my own team. I was the product manager, and I was operating in a bigger environment in the product that was already established, where a lot of teams was working on in the same time. So still you could see the impact of your changes, but there was a lot of going on, and the business would just go further. I decided, because of my previous boss, I decided to change the job, because he was a very experienced CRO guy. So he was doing a lot of experimentation, optimizations, and he was also very good UX designer and UX person. I felt that I didn't feel that confident in those areas. So, I mean, they convinced me that I could just do a lot of nice things with them. So the main challenge was that when I joined, I was the only product manager. There were some other developers in general, other product people. And the aim was that we need to make the company break even. It's, let's say in a year. And the main challenge was that still I was doing the same job as I was doing at Livechat, but also I had to, let's say, use the entire knowledge I gathered in the past years, even if this was UX, UI, if this was coding or anything, just to get the things done. So the bigger projects were going with the developers, but at the same time I was doing, let's say, my own experiments where I was coding myself and, let's say, doing the entire process like a single man army. And it's not, I mean, it's not that effective when you would have more resources, but the main challenge for me was that I really experienced that, okay, I guess I know my stuff more or less, because the experiments are going well. I conducted like 40 or 50 experiments on my own in the year with 60%, with 50% effectiveness. And when we just adjusted some other stuff also cost-wise and operations-wise, we made it break even. So it was just, for me, it was a challenge, because I had to be more hands-on and just validate everything I know. So that was the first.
I think it's a massive challenge for anyone, and especially startups, technological startups, face the stark reality of, okay, guys, we need to break even now.
Yep.
The putting out money needs to stop, and we actually need to make some. I think it's a massive challenge for anyone. So kudos to you for successfully tackling that challenge.
It worked. And for me, the most funny thing I would say was that I was doing such coding stuff and so on previously, even at LiveChat, but always I didn't consider it that top notch because I was not a developer, because I was not a UX designer and so on. And in the next company, I managed to, let's say, make it slightly more, just make it better. And it really also worked business-wise. So it wasn't just, let's say, a quick hack, not fuck, but hack. It wasn't a quick hack. It was something that was working well. And this was, I would say, the more personal one, challenge that I had. And the second one is the current one, where it's looking on the product development from slightly different perspective, because it's not about developing one product so it hits some particular goal, but it's taking a perspective for 5 or 6 products or X products and taking everything into consideration. So you suddenly need to know how to focus on different products, on different areas and different products, just to work on the things that matter most. And that's the first part. So changing the perspective from the product manager with a team in one product to a head of product managers who need to look wider on everything and work with the people and so on, which for me was the missing part. I mean, working with the people, with the team, leading them and so on. And the second part of the challenge is what I said earlier during our chat. So to find this adjusted use case and just, let's say, create the product or the feature within the existing product and the feature. Right. So do the same work parallel with the product development, just to cover the new market, the new feature and the new use case, and allow and enable the company to grow even faster. So it's, I would say it's like a mix of everything.
So the second challenge, you said adding the human element maybe to the product manager role, that also ties because you are a lecturer at a university. So was it always the case that you were like a people person that wanted to translate the knowledge, or it kind of came naturally while you were transitioning into a more extensive product manager role?
No. I mean, I would say that it was from the very beginning, because I started to do lectures when I was still at LiveChat. Okay. And the funny thing was that I was doing lectures even before I graduated my master's.
Really?
Yep. So I was not saying that aloud, because just, let's say, to not underpin the credibility. However, I mean, I just even during my college years, I was participating in various associations, and I would say that the knowledge sharing factor was always somewhere over there. So it just came naturally when the possibility appeared to be a lecturer. So I would say that it was always somewhere, but currently I have finally the option to have a team not only of product competence like developers and so on. Okay, like I had at LiveChat, but I have product managers in the team who are awesome people. I mean, I guess that I haven't seen yet product managers that had all of the features I just mentioned, that they are eager to learn. They are really taking care of the impact they are generating. So for me, it's like finally a place where I can fulfill everything in this manner. So we are now working on the skill set maps. There are quarter reviews that was already over there. We are sharing knowledge, and we are just working a lot on this, I would say, this knowledge part together. Right. And that's one of the most satisfying things for me, I would say, except for, let's say, doing the results and impact. So
I see. So it sounds like a product manager role is an all-encompassing position. So you really need to be versatile in your skill set to really make it work. Great.
I don't think that product managers, needs to be great people managers, as this is not that common that the product manager is responsible for the people in the team, like for their salaries, growth, and so on. But if someone wants to go into, let's say, managing others, then yes, it's a completely different set of competencies and skills that you just need to train from the ground up.
Cool. I think we focus mostly on the bright side of life now, but let's talk about some less pleasant things. So could you tell us a bit more about your biggest fuck up in your career?
Okay.
No filter.
Okay. I mean, I will say about one that it was in the German company where I thought that I can maybe even lose my job. But the thing was that the company wasn't that big. We were fighting for every euro and for any revenue that we could take. And I was doing the next experiment over there. And the experiment, I don't even remember right now the results, whether it was positive or negative, because this wasn't the case. The case was that it was in the, let's say, second week of December. So when the experiment stopped, I stopped the experiment. I went back to doing other things. Then we had the Christmas, then the New Year's Eve, then everyone let's say got back to work mentally, so they started to do what's happening. Right. And for a couple of days they were wondering why we are losing like some revenue and why some add-ons that you could purchase are not working. And I didn't know about that. So I didn't know that they are just like for 3 or 5 days in the next after the New Year's Eve, they are just discussing and thinking what happened over there.
Because you were working remotely, right?
Yes, I was working remotely, but this was mainly discussions on the C-level, let's say, over there. Okay. And I was just doing some other stuff, and I noticed, I stopped the experiment, but I forgot to disable one script that I did in Google Tag Manager. So it was like an external script that was just hiding all of the add-ons. I said, okay, I will just disable this. I mean, I will just enable this. I guess that nothing happened. And then a message is, hey, Michael, we are trying to, not Michael, hey, Michał, we are trying to find a way why we are not earning money, why we lose like, let's say, 20,000 euros in a couple of weeks. And maybe you know what's happened. And I'm seeing this and, oh, fuck, okay. So of course I said that it's my fault. That it's my fault. What happened? What I already did. I created postmortem. I said what I will do so such stuff won't happen again and so on. But yet I knew that the CEO was I would say pissed off. Right. I just did everything I could just to prove that I took the blame and what I will do in the future so it won't happen. But everything went well. I mean, it just happens. So.
Well, thank God it was after Christmas, so it didn't ruin that period for you. But still, really intense. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks. And for a more pragmatic thing, now obviously we love specialty features, products, tools. So what would you say is your favorite tool that you use daily and that really helps with your workflow?
Okay, so. I'm not sure if I will be that many of help, as I generally prefer to have as few tools as possible. So I would say that this is spreadsheets, that of course it's Jira Confluence, and one winner of all for me, even personally for my to-do list or for organizing my work and so on, it's Notion. So Notion, I would say, is the missing part between the spreadsheets, Jira Confluence and so on. And I would say that that's all. Okay, Grammarly for sure. Right. Yep, and I would say that's all, because really only if we can't do some. I really prefer to keep things simple. Okay. So for me, in most cases, this mix can do everything.
Interesting, because you come across as a maximalist in person and in character, and then you prefer a minimalistic way of working.
Yep.
That's a really interesting
contrast. And also the second thing is that if you want to go deeper in the, I would say, effectiveness, even with the experimentation process, most tools outside over there, I mean, they are not customizable that much, so it's just better to create something on your own. So for me, the spreadsheet, if you can,
because you also dabble in code, right? That's
So for me, for example, it was easier just to create a statistical calculator in the spreadsheet with some other features than use the ones available in the market, as they were just not specific enough for our case. And in general, I am seeing this more often, that more and more companies has it in-house.
Okay, really, really interesting.
Okay, one extra thing. It's related to what we discussed before the interview. I also recommend highly the newsfeed eradicator. It's a Chrome extension that is just blocking you the newsfeed on Facebook. So if you log in, you can just you just can't scroll down. There is nothing. There's like some quote, or that's all.
Yeah, so you can sometimes really can disappear into the whole the loophole of news feeds, and then
exactly.
the whole day goes by.
So that works.
And I have one more question that I was supposed to ask a bit earlier. Do you work with an agency at Bolt?
Nope. To my knowledge, no.
So being self-sufficient in your own work, and then Bolt seems pretty much self-sufficient.
Yep, exactly. So we have all of the competencies in-house.
Okay, great, cool. Okay. And if you had one wish that could solve any product-related problem, or maybe business speaking, a business problem, what would it be? What really pisses you off, or is a source of frustration? That's
a tough one. I would say that maybe. Okay, I mean anything's possible, yes?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so having magically all of the insights from the user. So let's say the output of a focus group, user research, and analytics, even if you don't have the numbers yet, that just tells you what will work and what won't. So that would be this. So something just to, I mean, it could be done. You would just need to mix tools like TryMyUI or usertesting.com with some mixed panel and amplitude, and something else, maybe with GPT-3. So you're just typing a question and it just combines everything to give you an output. But this would be this for sure.
So maybe another business idea for on your own to kind of merge it all
I think that it won't be effective. I mean, you just need to go to talk with the user to get this. So.
Okay, and our last question, what advice would you give to other product managers? Can be anything.
Okay, I think it would be focus on business results and growth, not so focus on outcomes, not outputs. And
maybe something that you wish you knew at the very beginning of your career that you have now after years of experience?
Make sure you are working in a proper product companies. Maybe this,
Okay,
so for sure, LiveChat was this, the German one, and Bolt. I mean, I had a lot of luck to work in a very product conscious companies. And I am also seeing a lot of people either on the interviews for product managers that really would like to do way more. They are just even striving to go further, but until you are working in a company that accepts this mindset of improving stuff, optimizing, saying that okay, we were not right, and let's try to do things better. I mean, you won't change this. Unless you are in the C-level, more in most cases, I would say that you won't just change this. So choose companies properly if you can.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this insight, and thank you for coming to our office for a great chat and sharing with us how you operate. And you, dear listeners, please don't forget to subscribe our channel and share your comments below.
Thanks.
Thank you.